Remember, remember, the 5th of November, gunpowder treason and plot. I see no reason why gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. Guy Fawkes, 'twas his intent to blow up the king and the parliament. Guy Fawkes is a name and a face that has become synonymous with protest and rebellion all throughout the world. England, New York, DC, Egypt, Hong Kong, Poland, Thailand, India, Venezuela, and many, many more. The mask is banned in places like Canada, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. A few of these masks can be seen among those who stormed the United States Capitol building on January 6th. The face of Guy Fawkes has become a symbol of free will and anarchy. The face has become more popular than the man himself. He has become a beacon of hope for people everywhere. The face of Guy Fawkes dominated newsstands in the UK and the US during the 1980s, and later it dominated billboards, movie, and television screens. From peace rallies to anti-nuclear protests, wherever there are people rallying and rioting against their governments, you're sure to find a few of these masks among the crowd. You may recognize the Guy Fawkes mask from its use by certain internet groups like Anonymous. Members of the online hacker group started wearing the mask in their 2008 campaign against the Church of Scientology. Since then, hundreds of thousands of Guy Fawkes masks are sold every year across the globe. Who was Guy Fawkes? Why is his death celebrated every November 5th in the UK? How did his likeness become a symbol of anarchy and rebellion? Well, to answer that question, we'll be talking about V for Vendetta. V for Vendetta is considered not only to be one of the best, but also one of the most influential graphic novels of all time. V for Vendetta is loved by fans and critics alike, and it's clear to see why. The story is incredible, the writing is timeless. It's a story you can read 100 times and find something new every single time. If you haven't already, I highly suggest stopping this video and reading the comic for yourself. V for Vendetta depicts a post-apocalyptic version of the UK in the 1990s following a nuclear war between the US and the USSR. England was spared by the bombs, but was left in a state of total chaos as the rest of the world went up in flames. During the 1980s, comics were becoming quite political. The Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen also shared a Cold War setting. The threat of nuclear war between the US and the USSR being prominent in all three stories. V for Vendetta follows a titular character V, a superhuman terrorist who recruits a young girl named Evey into his battle against the Norsefire Party, a neo-fascist regime that rose to power after the war. One of V for Vendetta's most interesting aspects is its insight into the rise of fascism. The Norsefire Party shares many similarities to the rise of the Nazi Party in Germany and to Mussolini's rise to power in Italy. Much like the Nazis, Norsefire implements a number of horrific tactics like propaganda, concentration camps, surveillance, manipulation, and censorship to control its citizens. The overarching plot of V for Vendetta is anarchy. V's goal is not to become a leader, but to dismantle the oppressive government and let the people govern themselves. Anarchy does not mean there are no rules, it means there are no rulers. There's a big difference. V for Vendetta has long been compared to George Orwell's 1984, Norsefire drawing a close comparison to 1984's Big Brother and Ingsoc. Unlike Ingsoc, however, the Norsefire Party is not portrayed as over-the-top evil dictators. They're portrayed as regular humans who, for the most part, believe their cause is righteous for their country and its people. The character of V can be compared to other characters like Jean Valjean from Les Mis and Edmond Dantes from The Count of Monte Cristo. All were former prisoners who escaped from their captors and sought revenge. Edmond Dantes in particular is mentioned quite a few times in the comic. A few parallels can also be noted between V and Eric, the Phantom from the Phantom of the Opera. Both wear masks to hide their disfigurements. There are no heroes or villains in V for Vendetta, just humans who believe their cause is just. This graphic novel does not take a stance or tell the reader what to think, but it just asks the reader to think in general. The graphic novel raises a question, which is, when is a revolution justified? I'm going to tell you now that the graphic novel does not actually answer this question. Instead, it challenges the reader to answer it for themselves. V for Vendetta is utterly fascinating. It's a dramatized yet realistic look into government, rebellion, and the human condition. You can read it again and again and walk away with something different each time. It's a story that stood the test of time, and if anything, has only become more relevant in this modern age of political turmoil. The creation of this comic is almost as interesting as the comic itself. V for Vendetta was written by comic book icon Alan Moore and illustrated by the very talented David Lloyd. Alan Moore needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. Alan Moore is an English comic author who is considered by fans and critics alike to be one of the greatest comic book writers of all time. Moore was born in the town of Northampton in England. Moore actually still lives in Northampton, the little town which serves as the setting for a few of Moore's novels, including The Voice of Fire and Jerusalem. Moore grew up in a working-class family with his parents, brother, and maternal grandmother. From a very young age, Moore was an avid reader, especially he loved to read comics. He started reading British comics like The Topper and The Beezer before moving on to American comics like The Flash, the Detective Comics, and the Fantastic Four. As a writer himself, Moore's resume includes Watchmen, which many people consider to be one of the greatest graphic novels of all time, Swamp Thing, Batman the Killing Joke, From Hell, and The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, to name just a very few. Moore started writing in the late 1960s, writing poetry for a local magazine. He didn't get much traction until the late 1970s, when he started publishing comic strips in such magazines like 2000 AD and Warrior. Warrior is the magazine that V for Vendetta was first serialized. V for Vendetta and another series by Moore titled Marvel Man were the first of Moore's works to gain any real traction. So much traction, in fact, that DC would come to Moore and ask them to work for him. Moore became the first comic writer to live in Britain to do any prominent work in America, where he would do his best work. Moore would leave the mainstream comic industry in the early 90s to work independently. Moore would work on a few experimental works like From Hell and the novel The Voice of Fire. Later in the decade, he would come back to the mainstream where he would release comics like The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Alan Moore is an interesting fellow to say the least. He's a ceremonial magician, something that came from his writing. Moore does believe that magic is real, but it's not the kind of magic you might know. Moore's idea of magic is that it's the bridge between the material and the immaterial. Magic is art, it's language, and it's consciousness. To me, all creativity is magic. Ideas start out in the empty void of your head, and they end up as a material thing, like a book you can hold in your hand. That is the magical process. It's an alchemical thing. Yes, we do get the gold out of it, but that's not the important thing. It's the work itself. That's the reward. That's better than money. Moore is also a practitioner in the teachings of Aleister Crowley. Crowley has already made an appearance in one of my videos. Moore had experimented with psychedelics for many years. He first tried acid when he was 16 years old. LSD was an incredible experience. Not that I'm recommending it for anyone else, but for me, it kind of hammered home to me that reality was not a fixed thing, that the reality we saw about us every day was one reality, and a valid one, but that there were others, different perspectives where different things have meaning that were just as valid. They had a profound effect on me. He quit psychedelics a few years ago and has since then just stuck with marijuana. Moore's an anarchist. He finds all forms of government repugnant. He believes that all forms of government are ugly outgrowths from the basic idea of anarchism. Moore believes in the philosophy of Hermeticism. Hermeticism is the belief that the world is controlled by three main factors: alchemy, astrology, and theurgy. These beliefs are reflected in V for Vendetta. Moore is one of the most decorated writers in the comic industry. He won the Eisner Award for Best Writer 9 times. He's also won the Eisner Award for Best Serialized Story, Best New Series, and Best Anthologies, to name a few. In 2014, he was inducted into the Will Eisner Hall of Fame. Listening to Moore speak in interviews is an experience in and of itself. Moore speaks so eloquently. Every word is delivered with such purpose and extensive thought. You have no clue what the hell he's talking about, yet somehow hang on to every word like gospel. Moore's writing style is unique to say the least. It's very in-depth and complex. He constantly changes perspective in almost every page. It makes analyzing Moore's work rather difficult, which is why it's taken me this long to get this video done. However, this does not take away from his amazing ability to tell a story. Alan Moore truly is a legend. The art for V for Vendetta was illustrated by David Lloyd. Just like Moore, Lloyd is also English. Some of his best-known work includes Hellblazer, the Aliens comics, Wasteland, and Espers. Getting his start in the industry in the late 1970s, David Lloyd has had quite an extensive career. Lloyd is known for his ability to illustrate a number of different art styles. The style of V is rather dark and gritty. Lloyd has collaborated with a number of comic writers: Del Close, Grant Morrison, Jamie Delano, Garth Ennis, Warren Ellis, and quite obviously Alan Moore. Lloyd was one of the creators of Night Raven. This character would later inspire V. Without question, Lloyd's most well-known work is for V for Vendetta. Lloyd designed the comic's main character, V. In fact, it was Lloyd who came up with the idea to use the Guy Fawkes likeness for the main character. Moore loved this idea and rolled with it. He designed the now iconic Guy Fawkes mask. Lloyd and Moore recognized how powerful a symbol could be, so Lloyd picked a face that had almost 4 centuries of significance behind it. Now, this still begs the question, who was Guy Fawkes? Born in 1570 in York, Fawkes was born to a family that were devout members of the Church of England. This was the church King Henry VIII established to convert Britain to Protestantism so he could divorce his wife. When Fawkes' father died, his mother got remarried to a Catholic man. This was a pivotal moment in Fawkes' life. He would later become a devout Catholic. After he finished his studies, he joined the Spanish in the war against the Dutch Republic. He despised the current King of England, James I, even calling him a heretic. James I was very anti-Catholic, even exiling all Catholic priests from England. At the same time, Fawkes joined a revolutionary cell led by Robert Gatsby. He was a part of what's now called the Gunpowder Plot. To put it simply, the group wanted to remove James I from the throne and have his daughter Elizabeth take his place. The reason why their plan was called the Gunpowder Plot was because they wanted to sneak barrels of gunpowder to the House of Parliament setting it all off at once, causing a huge explosion resulting in the killing of James I. The idea was that Fawkes would be the one to set off the gunpowder, and then he would escape across the Thames River. Meanwhile, there would have been a revolt in the Midlands, which was going to result in the capture of Elizabeth. This is not what happened, though. You see, the king exiled all of the Catholic priests from England, but there were still a lot of Catholics in the country. The group started to worry about all of the casualties of Catholic citizens that would die from the revolt. They feared for what would happen to their souls if they were to inadvertently cause the death of hundreds or even thousands of Catholics. This caused a divide in the group. Around the same time, an anonymous letter written for William Parquet, the brother-in-law of one of the plotters, was sent to Parliament. The letter was in code to warn Parquet to stay away from the plotters. The letter ended up getting passed around until it eventually landed in the hands of King James I. He was quickly able to decipher what the code meant. The king put together a group of men to search all throughout Parliament to find anything suspicious. A few days later, the king's men found Fawkes stacking firewood underground the House of Parliament in the Undercroft. Funny enough, Guy was able to convince the king's men that what he was doing was perfectly legal and he was doing it on the order of Thomas Percy. The guards went to investigate and found out that Thomas Percy was a Catholic agitator. They went to look for Fawkes again, but he was gone. They went to the king and told him of Fawkes' doings underneath the Parliament. James I was convinced that Fawkes was still hiding somewhere in Parliament, so he sent his men out looking again. Later that night, the king's men found Fawkes hiding between 36 barrels of gunpowder. He was brought before the king and tortured. Originally, Guy said his name was John Johnson. He gave him the whole fake persona as a way to direct suspicion away from the other men. At first, Fawkes refused to give up any of his co-conspirators. However, as the torture became more intense, he eventually gave away the names of the rest of his men. Eventually, all the men were found and beheaded. Their heads were put on spikes. On January 31st, 1606, Fawkes was meant to be drawn, quartered, and hung. As he was climbing the ladder to be hung, he either jumped from the top of the ladder or fell by accident to the ground below, breaking his neck. While not being the mastermind behind the gunpowder plot, Fawkes is remembered for being the trigger man. Since his death, Fawkes' legacy steadily grew, becoming one of the most recognized icons of British culture. Fawkes' story is remembered among British youths today with a nursery rhyme. I read the first half of the rhyme in the very beginning of this video. The full rhyme goes, "Remember, remember, the 5th of November, gunpowder treason and plot. I see no reason why gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. Guy Fawkes, 'twas his intent to blow up the king in the Parliament. 70 barrels of powder below, poor England to overthrow. By God's providence he was catched, with a dark lantern and a burning match. Holler boys, let the bell ring. Holler boys, God save the king." November 5th is recognized as Guy Fawkes Night every year in Britain. In the early years, Guy Fawkes Night was known as Gunpowder Treason Day. It carried strong Protestant pride. As the holiday got older, it became more focused on the life of Guy Fawkes. There are fireworks and giant bonfires. Huge effigies of Fawkes are constructed and subsequently burned. The British government had a monopoly on Fawkes' likeness for a number of years. The legend of Guy Fawkes is unlike any other. For years, he was known as the man who almost killed the king. Thanks to Moore and Lloyd, Fawkes is now known as a symbol of hope, anarchy, and rebellion. His name will be remembered for years to come. The initial idea for V for Vendetta came from a rejected comic strip written by Alan Moore called The Doll. The Doll followed a transgender terrorist in white face makeup fighting against a dystopian future. A few years later, editor Des Skin asked Moore to write a dark mystery strip with David Lloyd. The two creators decided to combine their previous works, The Doll and Night Raven, to turn it into something completely new. The project started out as a 1930s noir. Eventually, the two decided against setting the story in the past and instead set it in the near future. Moore struggled on what to call the new project. Lloyd actually came up with the name V for Vendetta. There really isn't much behind it, he just thought it kinda sounded cool. Next came the creation of the universe and the characters. We already talked about V's creation, so let's talk about Norsefire. Despite Norsefire's obvious connections to the Nazi Party of Germany, Moore actually based Norsefire on England's move towards conservatism following Margaret Thatcher's win in the 1983 election. Moore was confident that Labour Party candidate Michael Foot was going to win in 83. Moore felt that Foot's promise of nuclear disarmament would save England from a global nuclear war. In the aftermath, however, Moore felt that fascism would quickly rise in the UK, basically what happens in 1984. Moore and Lloyd would work tirelessly to fill out the rest. V for Vendetta was first published from March 1982 until Warrior's cancellation in 1985. In 1988, DC started republishing all of Warrior comics in color. DC then allowed Moore to pick up V for where it left off in Warrior. In 2005, the whole series was put together in a full collection. This was under DC's Black Label. Now with all the history and background out of the way, let's finally dissect the incredible V for Vendetta. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Today's video is brought to you by Atlas VPN. Atlas VPN is the most affordable VPN on the market. Right now, you can grab yourself a subscription to Atlas VPN Premium for just $1.83 per month, plus 3 extra months with a 30-day money-back guarantee. What does Atlas VPN do? Well, for starters, Atlas can stop annoying pop-up ads and it will block malicious links and IP trackers. Atlas will also notify you if someone's trying to steal your data. You can even use Atlas VPN to see if your email has been found in any data breaches. With Atlas VPN, you never have to worry about anyone tracking your activity when you use Google or any other search engine. Privacy and protection are really important to me, and the amazing thing with Atlas is that you can protect all of the devices in your home with a single subscription. But let me tell you my favorite thing that Atlas VPN can do. Let's say there's a show or a movie you really want to watch on Netflix, but it's not available in your region. Well, if you know it's available in another region, let's just say the UK for example, you can use Atlas VPN to switch your location to whatever it is you want, and that content becomes available to you. Streaming content isn't the only plus side to changing your location. You can also use it to get better deals on platforms like Netflix or Spotify. That's right, Atlas VPN can actually save you money. If you like what you've heard so far, then I'd like to encourage you guys to go check out the links posted in the top of the description box and in the pinned comment. And once again, if you check out Atlas VPN right now, you can pick up a premium subscription for just $1.83 per month, plus 3 months extra with a 30-day money-back guarantee. I really just want to thank Atlas VPN for sponsoring this video. As some of you guys might know, I have dealt with copyright issues in the past, which means I can't really make money on the YouTube side for some of my videos, but with sponsors like Atlas, it makes this doable and it just makes my job so much easier.
Now, with all that out of the way, let's finally dive into V for Vendetta. Book 1, Europe After the Rain. This title is a reference to the painting Europe After the Rain by Max Ernst. Max Ernst was a surrealist artist known for his apocalyptic landscapes. In the context of the story, Europe After the Rain refers to the fall of the old UK government under the nuclear war, after the end of the monarchy and in Parliament, and after Norsefire. This is what remains. The comic begins outside of Jordan Tower, the broadcasting studio that produces The Voice of Fate. The Voice of Fate is a propaganda machine controlled by the government. It's one of the many tools Norsefire uses to control its people. It is the 5th of November, 1997. This is the first time Guy Fawkes is referenced in the story, and it will certainly not be the last. The Voice of Fate can be heard throughout the entire country. There are loudspeakers on every street. We see cameras with signs reading, "For your protection." All citizens' movements are tracked, every move, every word, and every whisper. The Voice of Fate reports that there have been meat rationing throughout the city and some places are being quarantined. As the broadcast plays, we see Evey and V getting ready at the same time. V's dressing room is filled with various books and films that have been banned in the country. We see copies of Utopia, Uncle Tom's Cabin, Marx's Capital, and Mein Kampf on his bookshelf. He has movie posters for Murders in the Morgue, Road to Morocco, Son of Frankenstein, and James Cagney's White Heat hanging on the wall. In speech today, Mr. Adrian Carroll, Party Minister for Industry, stated that Britain's industrial prospects are brighter than any other time since the last war. Mrs. Carroll wanted to say that it is the very duty of every man in this country to seize the initiative and make Britain great again. Do I really need to comment on the irony here? Next, we see Evey trying to solicit money from a man. This is how desperate she is. Evey is a 16-year-old girl who is conscious that the world she lives in is wicked and cruel, but ignorant to many other things. Evey tells the man that she works in munitions, but the pay is not enough. Unbeknownst to Evey, the man she's speaking to is a fingerman. Fingermen are the secret police of the government. They're basically like the Gestapo. The fingermen tell Evey that prostitution is a Class H offense, which means they decide what to do with her. They tell her that they're going to do whatever they want with her, and then they're going to kill her. The multiplying villainies of nature do swarm upon him. Who the hell? And Fortune, on his damn quarrel, smiling like a rebel's whore. Who's he? But all's too weak for brave Macbeth. Well, he deserves that name. V's quoting Macbeth. What are you doing? You're in trouble, chum. Big old trouble. This woman's a criminal. We're police officers. She's wanted for interrogation, so keep your hands off. Disbanding Fortune with his brandished steel, which smoked with bloody execution, like Valor's minion, carved out his passage, till he faced the slave, which ne'er shook hands, nor bade farewell to him. V shoots tear gas out of his sleeve, blinding all of the men. He picks up Evey and runs away. At the same time, V's fake hand explodes, killing some of the men. What the hell happened? He just came out of nowhere, and just what the hell happened? Frank's dead. They're all dead. Oh Christ, what are we gonna do? Find him. We gotta find him, or the head will have our guts. We'll learn what he means by the head later, but We can surmise now that the men are terrified of the head, apparently more scared of it than the man who just escaped their grasp and killed 3 of them like it was nothing. Next, we see Evey and V on a roof. Evey asks the man who he is. Me, I'm the king of the 20th century. I'm the boogeyman, the villain, the black sheep of the family. Evey asks me what he was doing around Westminster in the middle of the night. Ah, but tonight's special. Tonight's a celebration, a grand opening. You were never taught the rhyme? Remember, the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot. I know of no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. The Houses of Parliament, they've been... Did you do that? I did that. In one night, V has succeeded in doing what Guy Fawkes and many others failed to. He blew up Parliament. Fireworks start shooting up in the sky, forming the letter V. This could be a reference to Repent Harley Quinn, said the TikTok Man, by Harlan Ellison. Repent Harley Quinn and other works by Ellison are referenced a few times throughout the comic. People all over London stop and gaze upon the fireworks in the sky. There, the overture is finished. Come, we must prepare for the final act. November the 6th, 1997. It's 6:30 in the morning. It's the next day. We're in the office of Norsefire party leader Adam Susan. I'll hear reports now, gentlemen. First, we hear from Mr. Hayer, the leader of the Eye. The Eye does the surveillance. They control all the cameras we see. All the branches of the Norsefire party are named after parts of the human anatomy. Party leader Adam Susan is the head, the leader of all the branches. Together they represent one individual. To my left is an enlargement of the suspect's face. I'm afraid the mask makes retinal identification impossible. Next, we hear from Mr. Etheridge, the leader of the Ears. The Ears control the phones and the radios. They monitor and listen in to every citizen's conversation. Phone surveillance indicates that a large proportion of the people are talking about the explosion that's inside London. All suspect or significant transcripts are being forwarded to Mr. Allman at the Finger. Mr. Allman is with me at the present. The Finger, as I mentioned earlier, is the police force in this twisted version of London. They enforce the law. Next, we hear from Mr. Finch at the Nose. The Nose is basically the investigation unit of the party. We found this device probably used to launch the fireworks and some spent casings. Individually weighted flares at a guess. Despite sophistication, I should say the device was almost certainly homemade and thus untraceable. Sorry, leader. Nothing else yet. Thank you, Mr. Finch. The 3 of you will inform me of any other developments and await my directive. England prevails, gentlemen. This is the motto of the Norsefire party. England prevails. Susan is livid at Allman for allowing 3 of his fingermen to die under his watch. Susan tells Allman that he wants the terrorist's head, and if he can't have his, he'll take Allman's head instead. Chancellor Susan is ruthless. Men in his position often are. Next, we see Mr. Allman meeting with Roger Dascombe in the Jordan Tower. Dascombe works for the Mouth. He's the program director for the Voice of Fate radio broadcast, so basically he's in charge of making propaganda for the government. Dascombe was advised to say that the bombing of Parliament was a controlled demolition. The government controls everything that people hear, see, and think. The scene is reminiscent of 1984. The protagonist Winston works for the Ministry of Truth. His job is to rewrite history whenever the party demands it. We learn the actual voice of Fate is a man named Louis Prothero. Listen to Louis. Isn't he marvelous? If Fate really had a voice, it would sound just like that. If only people knew what a good job he's doing. Don't be stupid, Dascombe. The whole idea is that people think it's Fate talking. It makes Fate appear more human, give people confidence. Everything that the government spews out is intrinsically designed to manipulate the people into whatever the government wants them to think. You may be wondering who or what Fate is. We've heard it mentioned a few times already. Is it a person? Well, we'll talk about that later. He collects dolls, you know. Wouldn't think it, would you? Big man like that collecting dolls. He's sensitive, you see. You can tell by his voice. I want you to remember about these dolls. They'll be important later. Dascombe pokes fun at Allman for letting the mass vigilante get away. The two argue, and Dascombe grows a sinister smile on his face, eerily similar to that of V's. We actually see a few characters with a smile like this. Could that smile be a hint that there are others that share V's desire for rebellion? Next, we see Evey and V in the Shadow Gallery, V's hideout. Look, I don't want to sound ungrateful. I mean, after you rescued me, but I don't understand any of this. Who are you? Or what do you want, or anything? I mean, I know you must have had a reason for blindfolding me when you brought me here, but couldn't you just tell me where we are? Are we still in London? Interesting to note that V blindfolded Evey before bringing her to his hideout. V is obviously quite secretive. The Shadow Gallery is not only V's hideout, it's also a museum of banned literature, art, and music. We are in the Shadow Gallery. This is my home. Do you like it? I built it myself, you know. It's unbelievable. All these paintings and books. I didn't even know there were things like this. You couldn't be expected to know. They have eradicated culture, tossed it away like a fistful of dead roses. all the books, all the films. Some of these collections of literature includes Frankenstein, Faust, the Odyssey, and Dante's Divine Comedy, to name a few. The song Dancing in the Streets is playing on the jukebox. Evey is completely blown away by all of this. Growing up in a fascist country that controls every aspect of its citizens' lives, Evey never heard this kind of music. She's enthralled by it. One of the Nazis' first acts was the destruction of literature, art, and music. Anything that was seen as treacherous to the party was destroyed and banned. There were serious penalties if you were found with any of the banned materials. Banning books is one of the most detrimental things for a society. I could certainly say a lot right now, but for the sake of time, I'm going to cut myself off and just move on. Perhaps the term Temla Motown is familiar to you. Obviously not. Hardly surprising, I suppose. After all, they eradicated some cultures more than others. Temla Motown refers to a style of soul music that was popular in the 1960s. Motown is actually a famous record label out of Detroit, Michigan. Tamla Motown was a subsidiary label outside of the US. Motown music is black music, so we can surmise that most of the band material in the country are of other cultures. No Temla and no Trojan, no Billie Holiday or Black Uhuru, just his master's voice every hour, on the hour. We'll have to see what we can do about that. Next, we see Louis Prothero, the voice of fate, on a train with a few other government workers. Sorry, this compartment is full. Full? Don't be ridiculous, man. It's empty apart from you three. There's plenty of... I said it's full, craphead. Oh my god, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. Full, yes of course, full. We see here that the government workers are no better than common thugs, doing whatever they want, wherever they want. The poor man gets a gun shoved in his face for simply trying to sit on the train. A big critique of anarchy is that it's without law and order. The biggest and strongest gang would take over and their rule would be law. However, that's pretty much what already has happened. The fingermen will threaten, beat, and torture whoever they want because they can, because they face no repercussions for it, because they are the biggest gang. Well, block, Ted. Can't have a carriage full of civilians. Civilians don't appreciate trains. It takes a military man to appreciate trains. You can even tell by the way Prothero talks that the government detests the civilians, treating them like inferiors. Prothero starts talking about his doll collection. Ted sees something moving along the train. When asked what he saw, he says it might have just been some rags caught on a fence. Prothero's in the middle of telling a rather tasteless joke when the men hear a loud thud on the roof of the train. Moments later, the lights go out. Even in complete darkness, as one of the men take out their guns, Prothero is still telling the joke. Prothero calls out to one of his security, George, but gets no response. Prothero flashes his lighter and sees George has been killed. Ted isn't doing much better. It was V who cut the lights on the train and killed the two men. We don't see what happens to Prothero yet, because in the next page we see Mr. Finch and his protege Dominic interviewing the conductor of the train. Someone knocked the conductor out, but he didn't see who. Well, he didn't really knock him out. He said he just sort of touched his neck and he woke up an hour later. Well, Mr. Finch, what do you think? Is it the same bloke who did the Parliament bombing or what? I hope so, Dominic, because if it's not, then there must be two of them. And that's a possibility I'd rather not consider without a stiff drink to hand. Finch says that whoever's been doing this isn't a normal person, not physically or mentally. The way he moves and talks is so far beyond any other human. Finch knows that in order to crack this case, he'll have to get into the terrorist's head, and that scares him. The two go inside the train to investigate. We see that Vive leaves his insignia inside the train. Finch says that the stab marks on Ted's body don't look like traditional stab or bullet wounds. Finch thinks he may have used his fingers. Finch finds a rose next to the corpse. A rose. A Violet Carson. Funny, I thought they'd been extinct since the war. Our friend in the mask has got quite a thing about the letter V, wouldn't you say? On top of the three fingermen from before, there are now two more victims the terrorist has killed. If they don't find Louis Prothero soon, then they'll have to consider him another victim. Jesus Christ, what had he done to those men? I've seen worse, Dominic, physically speaking. Like I say, it's the mental side that bothers me. His attitude to killing. Think about it. He killed them ruthlessly, efficiently, and with a minimum of fuss. Whatever their faults, those were two human beings, and he slaughtered them like cattle. Back in the shadow gallery, we see V climbing some stairs and walking into his dressing room, where Evey is sobbing at his desk. Evey was crying because she feared that he would not come back. Evey's no stranger to being abandoned. Last night, those men, they said they'd kill me, and you rescued me. You rescued me and brought me to this fantastic place, and it's so beautiful, and it makes me feel so safe, and I don't even know what your name is. I don't have a name. You can call me V. This is the first time we hear V's name being said in the comic. What shall I call you? My name is Evey. Evey Hammond. V asks Evey to tell her story. She takes out a picture of her family. She was the only child to two loving parents. When Evey was only 7 years old, the war between the US and the Soviet Union broke out. What's interesting is that Evey says the president of the US is named Kennedy. This is Interesting considering that the war started in the late 80s and John F. Kennedy would have been dead for well over 20 years at this point. I guess the implication is that the president is either Ted Kennedy or John F. Kennedy Jr. There were nuclear weapons. Entire continents are wiped from the use of the bombs. No one knew if Britain was going to be bombed or not. Britain was spared, but that's not to say the country was untouched. The bombs caused the oceans to rise. The Thames Barrier burst, flooding the city. The skies were covered in yellow and black clouds. All the crops died, causing a famine throughout the country. Evey and her family moved around a lot in the 4 years following the flood. There were no food, and the sewers were flooded. Famine and disease ran rampant across the country. Riots started all over the city. Gangs would fight openly in the streets. The government was already in shambles. That wasn't until one party started to rise. It was all the fascist groups, the right-wingers. They got all together with some big corporations that had survived. Norsefire, they called themselves. They soon got things under control. But when they started taking people away, all the black people and the Pakistanis, white people too, all the radicals, and the men who, liked other men, the homosexuals, I don't know what they did with all of them. Evey's father was arrested for being associated with a socialist group. They came for him one September morning in 1993. It was my birthday. I was 12. I never saw him again. They made me go and work in a factory with a lot of other kids. We were putting matches into boxes. I lived in a hostel. It was cold and dirty. I just wanted to cry all the time. I wanted my dad. That's how it was for 4 years. Not enough food, not enough money. Some of the older girls made money going with men. That's what Evey was planning to do the previous night, until things went south and V saved her. Evey starts crying again and V comforts her. Now, I kind of want to address the elephant in the room. Evey is 16 years old. Now, while V and Evey's relationship isn't exactly romantic as of now, that doesn't exactly stay that way the whole time. And granted, this comic takes place over the course of a couple of years, and she does get a bit older, but it's just kind of creepy. And Evey Hammond sobs like a child she is. Sobs because at long last, her nightmare is over. Now, Louis Prothero, on the other hand, his nightmare is only beginning. We cut to the next day with Mr. Finch meeting in the leader's office. Finch tells Susan that the codename V is not your typical terrorist. He's not after money or fame. He will not issue a list of demands. He's doing it because he wants to. He's doing it because he's out for blood. In just 2 days, V has killed 5 fingermen, blown up one of the country's oldest and most historic structures, and kidnapped the voice of Fate. We also learn that Fate is a computer, a sort of AI. Susan's able to tap into the mass surveillance network of the Fate computer. Susan is worried that if the citizens don't hear Prothero's voice for the Voice of Fate broadcast, they'll start to lose faith in the party. Susan tells Finch that he needs to find Prothero quickly. He orders him to leave so he can consult the Fate computer. England prevails, Mr. Finch. England prevails, leader. Back in the Shadow Gallery, Evey asks V why everything he does is so clouded in mystery and showmanship. He clearly enjoys putting on a show, even when he's committing extreme acts of violence. That's very important to you, isn't it? All that theatrical stuff. It's everything, Evey. The perfect entrance, the grand illusion, it's everything. They've forgotten the drama of it all, you see. They abandoned their scripts when the world withered in the glare of nuclear footlights. I'm going to remind them about melodrama, about the tuppenny rush and the penny dreadful. You see, Evey, all the world's a stage, and everything else is vaudeville. V's going to put on a show, even equipped with a new spiffy outfit. Chapter 4 is called Vaudeville. Vaudeville is a style of entertainment that originated from France in the late 19th century. Vaudeville acts consist of magic, acrobatics, comedy, trained animals, singers, and dancers. Next, we're going to see what V has planned for Louis Prothero. Last we saw, he woke up in front of a sign that read Larkhill Resettlement Camp. The sign is all part of a fake stage. A fake guard outfit has also been put on Prothero. Prothero starts yelling into the darkness that whoever's doing this has the wrong man. V pops up and tells him that they have a lot to do. The camp isn't going to run itself. Prothero tries to tell V once again that he has nothing to do with the camps. His lies, however, prove to be pointless, as V was in Larkhill when Prothero was the commander of the camp. I love the look on Prothero's face when he realizes he can't lie anymore. V takes Prothero on a trip down memory lane through his recreated Larkhill camp. All coming back to you, huh? The main body of the prisoners would be gathered in the yard, awaiting your inspection. You simply had to walk from your office down past the Nissen huts, turn the corner, and there they were. I told you to remember the doll collection. V has lined up all of his dolls, just like the prisoners were told to line up. Prothero falls to his knees and demands to know what's being done to his dolls. V finds it ironic how much he cares for his dolls, yet cares so little for the human lives he tortured at Larkhill. Prothero tries to justify his actions by saying it was us or them. That same justification has been used before, in a much similar scenario. Next, V takes Prothero down a recreation of the camp's medical compound, where the prisoners, who had been subjected to medical experiments, were placed. A lot more parallels to Nazi camps being shown here. Many inhuman experiments were conducted by the Nazis and the Japanese during World War II. You had to walk past these row of doors every night. Room 1, Room 2, Room 3, Room 4, Room 5. Room 5? But that was where they kept... Oh no. That was you, wasn't it? You're the man. You're the man from Room 5. That's right. V does not stand for Vendetta. It's a code name. V is the letter 5 in Roman numerals. The room V stayed at. V was patient 5. He lost his real name once he got to Larkill. It's rather ironic that V took the name given to him by his captors to strike back at them. What happened at Larkill? What happened in Room 5? Why is Prothero so terrified? What kind of experiments did they do? One of Prothero's duties at Camp Larkill was being in charge of the ovens where the dead bodies were disposed of. V is giving him a taste of his own medicine. V sets his precious doll collection ablaze as Prothero pleads and begs for him to stop. Next, we're outside New Scotland Yard. V sneaks behind the security guard and points to a body behind the wall. Up in the Jordan Tower, Mr. Amund tells Dascombe that they found Louis Prothero. Well, they found what's left of him. Prothero is left a babbling mess with porcelain doll makeup on his face, no doubt left by V. This forces Roger Dascombe to find a new voice for Fate. The assistants, however, know it's not the usual voice. Something's happened, and the Capitol listens. There's something wrong. There's something wrong with the voice of Fate. Such a small thing to cast such a long and uneasy shadow over the future. For whatever the future holds, one thing is certain. It just won't be the same. Now that the voice of Fate has changed, the mirage has been broken. Faith in the party is starting to waver. December 12th, 1997, over a month after the Parliament bombing. This chapter starts in the perspective of the country's leader, Adam Susan. Susan expresses his love and belief of fascism. The Romans invented fascism. A bundle of twigs was its symbol. One twig could be broken. A bundle would prevail. England prevails. Fascism. Strength and unity. I will not hear talk of freedom. I will not hear talk of individual liberty. They are luxuries. I do not believe in luxuries. The war put pay to luxury. The war put pay to freedom. The only freedom left to my people is to starve. The freedom to die. The freedom to live in a world of chaos. Should I allow them that freedom? I think not. I think not. This is interesting on a few levels. Susan might be evil for the oppression and mistreatment of his people, but he truly does believe fascism is the only way his country will survive. He sincerely believes what he's doing is what's best for his country and his people, even if it requires some tough sacrifices. We learn a few interesting things about leader Susan here. One interesting fact is that Susan is a virgin who has never felt the touch of a woman. Susan does love, but his love is not for a woman. It's for Fate, the Fate supercomputer. Susan is a fascinating character. He's probably the most powerful man in the world, he has immense wealth and influence, yet he is sad. He's a lonely virgin who yearns to feel the touch of a woman. He has given his entire life to his country, and he has nothing to show for it. All he has is his country and the Fate supercomputer. Next we cut to V's point of view. V's on the roof of the Old Bailey talking to the Lady Justice statue. V talks to her as if she's an old love of his who has cheated on him. She used to represent democracy and freedom, but now she's with her new husband, fascism. V talks to Lady Justice as if he's a disgruntled lover. He feels cheated by Lady Justice, as a man might feel when he finds his wife has had an affair. I also like the parallels between V and Susan as both being in love. Susan with Fate and V with Lady Justice. In a lot of ways, Susan and V are actually quite similar. In this scene, they're parallels of each other, two sides of the same coin. After a lengthy monologue, V decides that Lady Justice's crimes against him are unforgivable. He leaves her, but not without leaving her with one last gift. The flames of freedom. How lovely. How just. Oh, my precious anarchy. Oh, beauty. Till now, I never knew thee. The statue of Lady Justice has been a symbol of law and order for many years. She used to represent a fair and just system. However, under the oppressive Norsefire government, she now represents injustice and greed. Next we see Mr. Finch, who's trying to get some information from Prothero. This proves to be a useless attempt. Prothero is completely catatonic. V has done irreversible damage. Finch is fed up and begins to walk out of the room. Oh, what's the use? Whatever that bugger did to him, it was for keeps. Come on, Dominic. We'll have another crack at him after a cup of tea and a hand of brag. Let's take 5. 5. 5. 5. Room 5. 5. Maybe Louis isn't totally gone after all. Back in the Shadow Gallery, Evey asks V about the inscription carved into the archway in the hall. V, 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 V. It's a quotation, a motto. Vi veri veneversum, vivus hici. By the power of truth, I, while living, have conquered the universe. Evey tells V that she wants to help him with his mission, but V's reluctant. He doesn't feel she's ready yet. Evey won't take no for an answer. I won't get in the way, I promise. Can I, V? Can we make a deal? If you like. I think I know a way you could help me. Very soon. Very soon indeed. Yes, I think we can make a deal. Good. That's that then, right? V, you said that V thing was a quote. Who said it in the first place? No one you'd have heard of. A German gentleman named Dr. John Faust. He made a deal too. V is of course talking about Faust, the tragic play written by German poet Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. Faust follows scientist Heinrich Faust as he makes a deal with the devil. He sells his soul in exchange for immense knowledge. V often compares himself to the devil, but V isn't calling himself evil. Remember, what was Satan's great first sin? Offering Eve free will. This is what V wants to give Evey, free will. It's not a coincidence that Evie's name is so similar to Eve's. I also don't think it's a coincidence that Chancellor Susan's first name is Adam. He represents the establishment and the order, the same way Adam represented order that God created. Just like the devil, V is offering Evey a way out, a chance to break away. If you think I'm crazy or overreaching, V's final proposition to Evey even takes place in a garden. This also relates back to Faust, as just like the devil, V is offering Evey vast knowledge. Without knowing it, Evey's about to make a deal with the devil. Westminster Abbey, December 20th. Members of the Norsefire party meet for Mass. Norsefire forces all of its citizens to practice Christianity. Their own party slogan is strength through purity, purity through faith. Afterwards, members of the party converse outside. Almond and his wife Rosemary meet with Conrad, who controls the Eye, and his wife Helen. Helen pries details about the terrorists from Almond, which he's more than happy to divulge. The two couples talk for a while and then go their separate ways. In the private quarters of Bishop Anthony Lillyman and his assistant Dennis, the two discuss the sermon. Then they discuss something much more sinister. Has the young lady arrived yet, Dennis? She has, Your Grace. It seems there's a sort of mix-up at the agency. It's not one of the usual girls. She's a little older. She says she's 15, Your Grace. 15, hmm? Well, if Job can bear his disappointments, I suppose I must have the good grace to likewise bear mine. 15 is too old for Lillyman. That is, I don't even know what to say about that. The little girl sent for Lillyman, however, is a familiar face. It's Evey in disguise. This is part of V's plan. Back at the Shadow Gallery, V picks another rose, another Violet Carson, much like the one he left on the train when he abducted Prothero. Evey and the bishop move to the bed, then she goes to open the window. Lillyman has pure lust and anger in his eyes. The fact that he has done this to other little girls in the past is pure evil. Lillyman steps behind her and wraps his hands around her. Evey moves away and positions herself in front of the window. The two move into the other room. Outside, V takes out a couple guards on his way to the chapel. Then V jumps to the window that Evey left open for him. Lillyman grows impatient and tries to have his way with Evey. Evey grabs a lamp and hits him in the face, leaving him a bloody mess. Lillyman tries to get up and run after her and runs into V. We cut to the ear where we see two workers listening into the phones. The two decide to listen into Lillyman's quote-unquote children hour. They are listening to him take advantage of little girls. They tune into the bishop's frequency and hear him talking to another man. Fearing something's wrong, one of them goes to call Almond and Finch. Almond and Finch meet outside of the chapel. The two walk through the halls where they see dead bodies all over the place. Finch sees V's insignia on the wall and his signature rose. Later, Finch gets the audio from Lillyman's private quarters. 5. Of course. It was you that night. My God, I still dream about it. I haven't stopped dreaming about it in 4 years. It was like hell. Men burning, choking the yellow fog, in a black shape against the flames. A man. Just like Prothero, once Lillyman finds out that V's the man from room 5, he's absolutely petrified by him. As Finch and Dominic listen onto the tape, we see what V does to Lillyman. While on his knee, V forces him to eat a communion wafer poisoned with cyanide. A few days later, Finch is in the office of Dr. Delilah Surridge. She's done an autopsy on one of V's victims from the trains. She confirms Finch's theory that it was not a knife that caused the punctures, but some kind of blunt instrument. Before Finch goes to consult the fake computer, he asks Dr. Surridge if she knows anything about the roses. Surridge looks quite distressed when she sees the rose. In the Shadow Gallery, Evey's upset at V for killing Lillyman. Apparently, V only fooled her on half of the plan. She was merely a decoy. Evey gets upset and runs out of the room. Knightsbridge, residence of Mr. and Mrs. Almond. Rosemary begs Derek to talk to her about his lack of intimacy. Derek smacks her and scolds her for giving him a hard time. Derek tells her that he doesn't find her attractive anymore, and Rosemary goes off to bed. Back at the Shadow Gallery, Evey apologizes to V for her outburst. However, Evey still stands her ground and tells V that she refuses to kill anyone else. The two embrace. Dr. Surridge arrives back at her house. She looks rather distraught. She starts having visions of a mysterious man walking through a raging fire. Back in the Shadow Gallery, V reads Evey to sleep with the children's book, The Faraway Tree, before V heads out. The Magic Faraway Tree is the title of one of the books in a series by author Enid Blyton. The book is about a tree that has branches that lead to different mythical worlds, one of them being called The Land of Do As You Please, which is the title of the third book in V for Vendetta. Inside the Nose Building, Dominic discovers that the only documented facilities that numbered their rooms in Roman numerals were the resettlement camps from a few years back. This could confirm Finch's theory that the insignia is a 5 for the Roman numeral, not the letter V. Finch uses the fake computer to find out whatever he can about the resettlement camps. He discovers that both Prothero and Lilyman worked at the same camp, Larkhill. In fact, everyone who worked at Larkhill has died under mysterious circumstances. Dr. Surge hears a strange noise that awakens her. Roses. It's you, isn't it? You've come to kill me. Oh, thank God. Thank God. Back at the Ullman residence, Derek decides to play a cruel joke on Rosemary and pretends he's going to shoot her. The gun is unloaded, however. We can also see that Derek has been drinking. Back at the nose, Finch and Dominic discover that Dr. Delilah Surge also worked at Larkhill, meaning that she's next on V's hit list. V and Dr. Surge start talking. I always knew you'd come back. When I saw you that night, the night you escaped, you were standing against the flames. You turned and looked straight at me. I knew then that one day you'd come looking for me, that you'd find me. What we did, what I did at Larkhill, that terrible knowledge, it's been with me for so long that I could still do things like that. Dr. Surge talks about an experiment in which ordinary people were asked to administer electric shocks to strangers, increasing the voltage when told so by the administrators. Nearly 80% of those tested carried on administering shocks after the victim begged them to stop. Nearly 60% continued after they believed they had killed him. Some said they even enjoyed it. Okay, let's talk about this. This was a real experiment conducted in 1963 by psychologist Stanley Milgram at Yale University. The point of the experiment was to study the conflict between obedience to authority and personal conflict. Milgram wanted to know if some people were more inclined to submit to authority figures than others. In a sense, Milgram wanted to learn how so many Germans went along with the inhuman acts of the Nazi Party. The goal of the experiment was to see how far people would go obeying an authority figure while being instructed to hurt another person. Milgram recruited people in the New Haven area through ads in the paper. By the end, he had 40 participants, all men aged 20 to 50 from varying ethnic, social, and political backgrounds. At the beginning of the experiment, the men were asked to draw straws to see who would be a teacher and who would be a learner. The teacher would be the one administering the shock, and the learner would be the one receiving the shocks. This, however, was completely fixed. All 40 participants were teachers. The learners were plants. They were part of Milgram's team. In fact, the learner was the same person every time, a man named Mr. Wallace, or at least that's the name that was given to the participants. The role of the teacher was to test Mr. Wallace about a group of pair words he was supposed to memorize. The teacher named a word, and Wallace had to recall its pairing word from a list of 4 possible choices. If he got it wrong, he would get a shock. For example, if the word was apple, let's say the pair word is red. Now, if I told you the word was apple and then gave you a list of options, blue, pink, red, and orange, if your answer was anything other than red, you'd get a shock. The teacher was to administer a shock every time the learner got it wrong. They were instructed to increase the shock every time the learner got it wrong. The voltage of the shocks ranged from 15 volts, which is a minor zap, all the way to 450, which could potentially be fatal. Much like the pulling of the straws, this part of the experiment was also fixed. Mr. Wallace was told to give wrong answers, so the learners would have to keep upping the volts. If at any point the teachers refused to administer any shocks, they were given a list of orders. Number 1, please continue. Number 2, the experiment requires you to continue. Number 3, it is absolutely essential that you continue. Number 4, you have no other choice but to continue. The result was that only 65% of participants, so that's 26 out of the 40, would go all the way up to 450 volts. However, all participants went up to at least 300 volts. The conclusion of the experiment was that people are likely to follow orders given by authority figures if they deem that authority figure as being morally righteous, even if those orders are to harm or even kill others. Not quite as drastic as the comic makes it seem, but still a fascinating story to read about. I think I enjoyed what I did at the time. People are stupid and evil. There's something wrong with us, some hideous flaw. We deserve to be culled. We deserve it. Finch calls Almond and tells him that he thinks V's gonna kill Surge. Almond packs his gun and runs out. Rosemary watches him from the window as he leaves. Surge tells V that she suspected he was the terrorist. She started to suspect it when Finch gave her the rose. I wasn't sure that you were the terrorist, not until I saw the rose. There's no coincidence, Delilah. Only the illusion of coincidence. I have another rose. It's for you. Surge asks V if he's going to kill her. He says he already did. He injected her with poison while she was asleep. V consoles her, telling her that her death will be painless. He even takes his mask off when Surge asks if he can see his face one last time. V's much more sympathetic with Surge than he was with Prothero or Lilyman. What's interesting about Prothero, Lilyman, and Dr. Surge is that their deaths are reflective of who they were when they were at Larkhill. Prothero's dolls were burned in the incinerator. He used to run the incinerator at Larkhill. Lilyman was fed a poisoned wafer during a mock communion, and Surge was injected with poison, just as she injected poison into the prisoners of Larkhill. V may be trying to start a revolution, but make no mistake, he's out for blood too. His mission is about revenge above anything else. Once Surge has succumbed to the poison, he walks out in the hall and comes face to face with Almond. It's all finished, chummy. All of it. The old man told me it was my head or yours. And what do you know? It's yours. Almond pulls the trigger, and the gun's not loaded. He forgot to load it after he waved it in Rosemary's face. V takes the opportunity and stabs Almond in the stomach, killing him. Later, Finch and Dominic watch as Almond's body's carried away. Finch is angry and more determined than ever to catch V. Dominic hands Finch Surge's old journal from her old days at Larkhill. Back at the head, Finch is meeting with Susan to discuss his findings in Delilah's journal. So it begins on April 30th, 1993. I'll read it to you. Surge arrives at Larkhill and is reduced to Commander Prothero. She looks over the prisoners but complete to test. By May, the experiments start. Prothero picks 4 subjects for Surge's experiments. By June 9th, 75% of the 4 dozen prisoners are dead. By the 18th, only 5 are left, 2 men and 3 women. The man in room 5 is a really interesting case. Physically, there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with him. No cellular anomalies, nothing. But he's quite insane. Batch 5 seems to have brought on some kind of psychotic break. Strangely, he's developed one of those curious side effects which seem to afflict certain categories of schizophrenia. His personality has become totally magnetic. He says very little, but there's something about the way he looks at you. He looked at me today as if I was some sort of insect. He looked at me as if he felt sorry for me. Dr. Surridge takes a special interest in the man in room 5. Batch 5 has left the man completely insane, yet everything he does seems to have a purpose. The man in room 5 takes a special interest in gardening. At first, the staff is reluctant to let him grow a garden, but when he almost doubles their food supply, they allow him to continue. He especially has a talent for growing roses. While gardening, the man starts collecting ammonia-based fertilizer and grease solvent in his room. At first, he just clumps them into piles, but then he creates a one-on-one diagram of Larkhill on the floor of his cell. Surge convinces Prothero that the man is harmless and allows him to continue. This will prove to be a mistake. Next we jump all the way to December 24th, Christmas Eve. A huge boom can be heard somewhere in Larkhill. The entire camp is covered in some deadly gas. It's complete mayhem. Men screaming, people dying, and raging fires. In the center of the camp, everything was on fire. While we were trying to work out what was going on, the ovens exploded. I ran, but everyone was running, and in all different directions. It was horrible. It was the man in room 5, who had got out, who had got away, who blew it up. He killed. I couldn't even have known. The ammonia, the grease solvent, and all the other stuff. He'd been making things with them. Mustard gas, and napalm. And in the yard, I saw him. He had flames behind him. He was naked. He looked at me as if I were an insect. Oh God, as if I were something mounted on a slide. He looked at me. That's the end of the journal. The next 4 years, V was plotting his revenge, his vendetta. Over those 4 years, he killed anyone who had ever had anything to do with Larkhill, leaving only 3 staff members for last. Finch believes that V does not actually care about a revolution. He says that the Parliament bombing was just a smokescreen. What V is really after is revenge. Finch is afraid. He's afraid because he does not understand V. No matter how much he tries, no matter how hard he struggles, he cannot get in V's head, and that scares him. Book 2, The Vicious Cabaret. January 5th, 1998. V's performing a magic trick for Evey in the Shadow Gallery. Afterward, the 2 dance. Keep in mind, Evey's about 17 here. Evey asks V why he never tried to make a move on her this entire time while she lived with him. Once again, Evey's 17 here. She thinks maybe there's other girls in Evey's life, or maybe he doesn't like women at all, or maybe he's her father. Evey is stunned and speechless. He tells Evey that he has a surprise for her, and he blindfolds her. V drags her along for a while until he eventually stops replying to her questions. Evey takes off the blindfold and the 2 are outside. V starts reciting passages from the Faraway Tree, the book he read to Evey to help her fall asleep. V tells Evey that he is not her father's dead. Evey starts getting scared and begs to go home. She tries to grab V but finds that it's nothing but a mannequin and a tape recorder. She's all alone. We see Rosemary at Derek's funeral. You're gone, Derek. I never liked you. I was afraid of you. I loved you. You've gone beyond the veil. Me too. While at the funeral, Roger Dascombe offered Rosemary to help pay her bills for her company. This is not just a generous offer. As much as Rosemary doesn't like it, or like him, she has to take his offer. A few days later, she ends up taking his offer and has dinner with him. He's willing to help her financially if she's willing to, help him. Dascombe is looking over all of the country's television programming. Outside of his studio, the elevator door opens in front of a bunch of security guards. It's V. A fight breaks out. V makes quick work of all Jordan Tower security. Once all the guards are dead, V bursts his way into the studio. We can see that V has a bomb attached to his chest. He takes over the studio and forces Dascombe to broadcast his tape. Good evening, London. I thought it's time we had a little talk. Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. I don't know why. It's probably because it's 1 o'clock in the morning as I'm recording this, but when I look at this panel, it just reminds me of the Max Headroom incident. It was that time in like the 80s or 90s, wherever, where that dude in a Max Headroom mask like hijacked some local, I think it was like Chicago TV broadcast. But yeah, it's what I think of when I look at this panel. V scolds the citizens of London for their compliancy to the Norsefire party. The people have lost their purpose, their drive. They've sold all of their individual freedoms for the lies of the Norsefire party. V's message is a call to action. Outside of the studio, the SWAT team breaks through the front doors. We can see that V's message is being broadcasted everywhere, all throughout the country. We've had a string of embezzlers, frauds, liars, and lunatics making a string of catastrophic decisions. This is plain fact. But who elected them? It was you. You who appointed these people. You gave them the power to make your decisions for you. You have incurred these malicious incompetents who have made your working life a shambles. You have accepted without question their senseless orders. You accepted them to fill your workspace with dangerous and unproven machines. You could have stopped them. All you had to do was say no. Norsefire gained the people's trust because despite taking away their freedom, it offers them protection. People's most innate fear is death. When England was on the brink of total collapse, your life was not guaranteed. Many people died. In history, this is how other oppressive regimes have claimed power. This is the main difference between anarchy and government. Government guarantees life and protection, but not freedom. Anarchy guarantees freedom, but not life or protection. It's a human instinct. We fear death more than we yearn for freedom. The SWAT team has made it up the stairs, and they burst through the studio door. V tells the people that they have 2 years to show improvement in their work, or they're quote-unquote fired. The SWAT team opens fire on V, and he falls out the window. Finch walks alone on an empty beach. Peter Creedy is the new head of the Finger after Allman's death. It was Creedy who sent his men into Jordan Tower, the man who killed V. While looking over all the damages from V's takeover, Finch notices that Roger Dascombe is nowhere to be found. Finch takes off V's mask, and it's Roger Dascombe. V planted the mask on him before he escaped. Once again, V is one step ahead of them. Finch has the building searched again. Him and Creedy get into a heated argument when Creedy makes a crack about Dr. Surridge. Finch snaps and punches him. Apparently, Finch cared a lot for Dr. Surridge. Susan suspends him, and he takes a holiday. Meanwhile, we see Evey has moved in with a man named Gordon Dietrich, a small-time criminal. March 8th, 1998. Gordon takes Evey to a nightclub. Evey notices Rosemary Allman sitting all by herself. She can't help but feel bad for the widow. This freaks Evey out and she runs away. Gordon comforts her and we can see V watching Evey from the rooftops. April 15th, 1998. Gordon tells Evey that she can no longer use his spare room anymore as he will be needing it. He tells her that if she wants, she may share his bed. She agrees and they end up sleeping together. Well, they do more than sleep together. A couple months later, Gordon tells Evey that she needs to hide herself in the bathroom. Another small-time gangster named Alistair Harper is at Gordon's door. Apparently, Gordon owes him some money. Alistair's henchman raises a sword and stabs Gordon through the door. Evey eventually comes out of the bathroom and sees Gordon lying on the floor. She has flashbacks of her dead mother and her father being taken away. She has a flashback of the night when V abandoned her. Once again, Evey is alone, with nothing and no one. Evey walks upstairs and opens Gordon's gun drawer. While walking in the street, Evey runs into Rosemary Allman. Rosemary says she has a job. She asks Evey if she knows where the stage door is. Evey tells her she doesn't know, and Rosemary walks away. Evey hides in an alley and has a cigarette. She's waiting for someone. Eventually, a car parks right next to her. It's Alistair Harper and his henchman. She takes out Gordon's revolver and aims it at Alistair. Before she can take a shot, a mysterious man comes up behind her and abducts her. The air around me is completely black. I think that perhaps I'm backstage at the theater. During the interval, there are muffled bumpings nearby. Stage hands are rearranging the scenery. I smell roses and think about the scented birthday card my mother found in the shoebox at our house on Shooter's Hill. The petals fall, pencil shavings of cream flesh. Everything's changing. Evey says it's her birthday and that she had to go to her party. Evey's back in V's dressing room, but this isn't the same Evey we just saw. She has pigtails and a nice pink dress. She might be wearing the same outfit she wore when she was tricking Lilliman. Evey's father tells her that she's missing the party. The two walk up the stairs. However, when Evey gets to the room, it's Gordon who opens the door, and it's Gordon who lays down in her bed. Then the door opens and my mother comes in. I realize that I'm in bed with my father and I start to apologize. She doesn't seem to mind. She tells me that the Punch and Judy man is about to start. I realize that she wants to be alone with Dad, so I go next door. Throughout this whole sequence, Gordon and Evey's father switch back and forth. I think this is a hint that Evey saw Gordon as a replacement for her father rather than a lover. Next, Evey's in the old folks' home. A show's being put on. It's V in his vaudeville outfit. He knocks the head off a mannequin. We also see Dascombe, Surridge, and Prothero on the stage. That's the way to do it. Oh dear, dear, dear. Evey freaks out and runs away. Evey runs through the halls and she sees V in his Guy Fawkes outfit on the other side. They've left me alone with him. I turn and run back the way I've come, but the corridor was gone, and there's a big flight of spiral stairs instead. My legs are heavy. I can hardly move them. He's gonna catch me. I get to the top of the stairs and look down the well. He's coming up after me. Round and round he goes. He starts chasing her through the halls and up the elevator, and Evey wakes up in a dark cell. She's been captured by the Fingermen. Evey spends all day in the dark, empty cell. Eventually, guards come and take her away in a blindfold. The Fingermen have video of Evey's solicitation attempt, and they know V helped her, killed for her. They know she worked with V. The guards found her with the gun outside the Kitty Cat Keller Club, and then he tells me that I'm to be formally charged with attempted murder of Senior Officer Peter Creedy, a frequent customer of the Kitty Cat Keller. Evey's brought into a dark room. All of her hair is shaved off, and she's brought back into her cell. Her only company is a lone rat. Evey has been thoroughly dehumanized and broken. She's almost given up completely. It is until one day in her cell, she notices something sticking out of a crack in the wall. It's a note written by someone named Valerie. I don't know who you are. Please believe. There's no way I can convince you that this is not one of their tricks. But I don't care. I am me. And I don't know who you are, but I love you. Valerie is in the cell next to Evey. She's also a prisoner. I don't know where I am. I don't know what day it is. I know there's a woman who wrote me a letter on toilet paper. I know she's alone. I know she loves me. I read her letter over and over. Her name is Valerie. This chapter, we get to see Valerie's life. Valerie was born in Nottingham. From a young age, Valerie wanted to be an actress. In grammar school, she met her first girlfriend. Her name was Sarah. She was 14 and I was 15. We were both in Miss Watson's class. Her wrists were beautiful. In 1976, Valerie moves to London for college. She's very happy. Evey, not so much. Evey is being waterboarded and interrogated. They want Evey to give V up. Ironically, this mimics Guy Fawkes' own torture interrogation. You work for Codename V. Codename V kills security officers. Peter Creedy is a security officer. He frequents the Kitty Cat Keller. You were found outside the establishment with a loaded gun. You were planning to murder Mr. Creedy under the orders of Codename V. Isn't that what happened, Miss Hammond? The police are trying to get Evey to admit that she was going to kill Creedy even though it isn't true. They're trying to get a false confession. London. I was happy in London. I wanted more than that. Work improved. I got small film roles, then bigger ones. In 1986, I starred in The Salt Flats. It pulled in the awards, but not the crowds. I met Ruth while working on that. We lived together, and on Valentine's Day, she sent me roses. And oh God, we had so much. We loved each other. Those were the best 3 years of my life. In 1998, there was the war. And after that, there were no more roses. Not for anybody. In 1992, Norsefire started rounding up all gay people in the country. They abducted Ruth and started torturing her. They burned her with cigarettes and beat her until she gave up Valerie. This reminds me a lot of 1984, if you ever read it, when the main character Winston was tortured for months by Insoc until he gave up his girlfriend Julia. Eventually, Ruth cracks and gives up Valerie. Valerie doesn't blame her, though. She forgave Ruth. Unfortunately, Ruth could not. She killed herself in her cell. Valerie's head is shaven, she's put in a dark cell just like Evey. But nothing else in her life, Valerie writes a note, hopefully to give someone else hope who needs it. The guards are still trying to get Evey to confess to her sins, and despite the continual torture, she still refuses to give V up. As you wish. Escort Miss Hammond back to her cell, and take her out behind the chemical shed and shoot her. Despite the fact that Evey's about to be killed, she still refuses to talk. That's more than can be said for Guy Fawkes. Evey's taken back to her cell. She reads Valerie's letter one more time. It's time. Unless you want to change your mind, sign that statement. You can be out inside 3 years. Perhaps they'd find you a job at the Finger. Thank you, but I'd rather die behind the chemical sheds. Then there's nothing left to threaten with, is there? You are free. The guard leaves Evey's cell door open. She wanders the halls but sees no one there. She sees a lone guard at the end of the hall, but upon closer inspection, it's just a mannequin. She walks back to the interrogation room, also a mannequin. The voice she heard was from a recorder. Evey continues her journey through the prison where she finds costumes, wigs, and the rat that was in her cell. She opens a mysterious door and she's back in the shadow gallery. Evey was never in prison. It was V. It was V the whole time. All of the torment, all the torture and the abuse. It was V. Evey is understandably upset and has a breakdown. You tortured me. You tortured me. Oh God. Why? Because I love you. Because I want to set you free. Evey curses V for what he did to her, for locking her in a prison. V tells Evey that she was already in prison. V put Evey through the same hell he faced in Larkhill, the torture, the isolation, and the fear. When Evey tries to tell V that she was happy before he threw her out, he says, happiness is a prison. Evey fights back and rejects V's warped defense. She tries to escape while V chases her, just like her dream. I didn't put you in a prison, Evey. I showed you the bars. You're in prison, Evey. You were born in a prison. You've been in a prison for so long, you no longer believe that there's a world outside. Evey starts having a panic attack. She says she can't breathe. Evey begs for the pain to stop, but V has other plans. You were in a cell, Evey. They offer you a choice between the death of your principles and the death of your body, and you said you'd rather die. You faced the fear of your own death, and you were calm and still. Try to feel now what you felt then. I felt like an angel. Oh God, V. Oh God, I'm so scared. I'm so cold. What's happening to me? The door of the cage is open, Evey. V takes Evey to the roof, this time without a blindfold. On the roof, Evey walks out into the pouring rain. She looks very sickly and emaciated. Everything's so different. I feel so... I know. 5 years ago, I too came through a night like this, under a roaring sky. This night is yours. Seize it. Encircle it within your arms. Bury it in your heart up to the hilt. Become transfixed. Become transfigured forever. V is evil. Perhaps just as evil as Susan. Evey was a naive child, an innocent soul, and V put her through hell, not to save her, but to twist her mind to fit his own agenda. He has broken her mentally and rebuilt her as a slave. The first step was to shave her head, signifying the start of her rebirth. Taking away her fear of death was the second step. This is the final step, her full rebirth. He says it was out of love, but this is not love. I believe V thinks he loves her. I think Charles Manson and Jim Jones believe they love their followers as well. But this isn't love. By taking away her fear of death, V truly believes he has saved her. It's sickening. September 3rd, 1998, at the Nose. It's been 6 months since V has made a move. Dominic asks Finch if he thinks it's all over. Finch is preoccupied with the roots of coincidence. The roots of coincidence serves as a layman's guide to the theories and philosophies of synchronicity by Carl Jung. Dominic tells Finch that he's picked up supplies he requested from the pharmacy. While V's playing the piano, Evey comes in and kisses him. She even thanks V for what he's done for her. Evey should hate V for what he did to her. Instead, she loves him, convinced that he showed her the truth. Some might say it's Stockholm Syndrome. I believe that's too simple of an explanation, though. He's completely destroyed her mind. She asks V if he made up Valerie's letter. V tells her to follow him. Valerie was real, and so was the letter. Valerie wrote that letter in her own hand while she lived. I delivered it to you as it was delivered to me. The words you wept over were those that transformed me 5 years earlier. V, she's beautiful. Who was she? She was the woman in room 4. Memory plays a big role in Vendetta. V uses Valerie's memory as fuel for his revolution. Now, Rosemary Allman is the woman in room 4. Rosemary, with everyone in her life gone, is forced to dance with the Kitty Keller cat for money. Back in the Shadow Gallery, V shows Evey his rose garden. V tells Evey that he grew the roses in Valerie's memory. Evey was once opposed to killing anyone. However, when V picked Evey off the street, she was about to kill Alistair Harper. He killed your lover. You wanted revenge. There's a rose for him here. You only have to pluck it and hand it to me. Nothing else. Evey considers it, and she decides to leave the flower to grow. In the head, leader Susan freaks out when the fake computer says, I love you. Some guards come in and check on him, but tells them to leave. And he hungers in his secret dream for the harsh embrace of cool machines. But his lover is not what she seems, and she will not leave a note. Back in the Shadow Gallery, Evey asks V what's his next step. Her hair is growing out a little bit. V tells her that the final step is what's coming next. The final stages of V's revolution are commencing soon. V tells Evey that he will need her, but not yet. I'm going to give the world what Valerie wanted it to have. Roses. A great abundance of roses. Evey and V dance in the ballroom. There's a murder at the matinee. There are dead men in the aisles, and the patrons and the actors are uncertain if the show is through and with sidelong looks await their cue, but the frozen mask just smiles. Book 3, The Land of Do As You Please. Prologue. V's final steps of his revolution are about to begin. Commander Susan is completely obsessed with a fake computer. Fate. Massive fate. Remote fate. Uncaring fate? It's said there's no question that can be formulated that you cannot answer. Tell me this then. Am I loved? You said I love you. I saw it. Please, please give me a sign. Susan is an utterly broken man. He's the most powerful man in the country and possibly the loneliest. He has dedicated his whole life to his country. to his party, and he has no one because of it. No children, no wife, no friends. He's feared by everyone. He has never known what it's like to be loved. His only hope at even having the slightest chance at love is a cold, soulless computer. It's rather sad. November 5th, 1998, back on the roof, V is starting his final symphony. The eye and the ear buildings go up in flames. Etheridge is caught in the explosion. Connor Hayer, his wife Helen, and Dominic are caught outside. Susan meets with the remaining heads of the Norsefire party. The eyes, the ears, and the post offices have been taken down. Norsefire is completely blind, deaf, and mute. Susan wants to stop all the panic in the streets. He orders Fate to make an emergency announcement. However, Fate is already broadcasting a message. Almost 400 years ago, a great citizen made a most significant contribution to our common culture. It was a contribution forged in stealth and silence and secrecy, although it is best remembered in noise and bright lights. To commemorate this most glorious of evenings, Her Majesty's government is pleased to return the rights of secrecy and privacy to you, its loyal subjects. For 3 days, your movements will not be watched, your conversations will not be listened to, and do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. This is Aleister Crowley's Law of Thelema from his 1904 book, The Book of Law. God bless you, and good night. November 6, 1988, the day after the bombs. All of the cameras and the listening devices are gone. The voice of Fate is gone. For once in a long time, there are no consequences. He's taken it. He's taken away the voice of Fate. How shall I fill the gap it leaves? How shall my country fill in the silence? Susan is utterly broken, caring more about the Fate computer than for his own people. Soldiers have been set to the streets to quell any possible riots or lootings. This doesn't work too well. With no cameras and so many people, Norsefire can't possibly keep an eye on everyone. It really is a free-for-all. Rosemary meets with Alistair Harper inside the Kitty Keller Club to ask him for a gun. She said it's only for protection. Given that the country has fallen into complete chaos, I wouldn't say I blame her. However, I don't think that's quite what Rosemary has in mind. Outside, people are starting to protest. Noise is relative to the silence preceding it. The more absolute the hush, the more shocking the thunderclap. Our masters have not heard the people's voice for generations, Evey, and it is much, much louder than they care to remember. November 6, 1998. V carries a stereo into Evey's gymnastic room. Evey asks V if this is true anarchy. No, this is only the land of take what you want. Anarchy means without leaders, not without order. With anarchy comes a period of disorder and chaos until order is brought back. This is not anarchy, Evey. This is chaos. V is not trying to lead the people. He wants the people to lead themselves. However, V knows that toppling the government would lead to all this chaos. He believes that once the terror stops and the flames die down, a new society will rise, one led by the people and for the people. They won't need a ruler. They will, however, need a symbol. That's what V is, a symbol. It doesn't matter who's behind the mask, just as long as there is someone behind that mask. Susan is still utterly obsessed with the Fate computer. He believes that riots will end themselves and everything will go back to the way it was. Perhaps wishful thinking, but at the end of the day, the people don't matter. All that matters is Fate, as we can, clearly see. Next we see Rosemary paying Aleister for the gun. She thanks him and walks away. While walking back to the club, Aleister runs into Peter Creedy. Creedy tells Aleister he has a job for him. Because of all the riots, the fingermen are stretched thin. Creedy knows Aleister can provide weapons, and that's exactly what he wants. We see Conrad and his wife Helen talking in their bathroom. Conrad says that Creedy is recruiting an army and planning a coup against Susan, not to stop the riots. Helen tells Conrad that he needs to grow a pair and fight Creedy for that chair once Susan's out of the picture. Helen is something of a Lady Macbeth. She wants Conrad to become a leader so she can control him from the shadows. We can already see the power she has over him as he goes to his knees with a towel at her command. Now that Susan's mental state's broken, the war for who will take his throne has begun. Back in the Shadow Gallery, V shows Evey a hallway that she's never seen before. V talks about his quote-unquote mistress. V says that he has been betrayed by his one true love. She has gone to another man. V is talking the same way as he talked about Lady Justice. This is when we discover the truth. V has been in control of the Fate computer this whole time. This is how he knows everything. This is how he destroyed Susan's mind, just like he destroyed Evey's. Helen meets with Aleister Harper. She's offering Aleister more money for him to work for her and Conrad rather than Creedy. Aleister takes her offer. Next we see Rosemary dancing in the Kitty Keller Club. She's completely broken. Her body is going through the motions, but this woman is completely dead inside. She recounts her life with Derek. Right now, she's completely alone. We see Mr. Finch has traveled to what remains of Lark Hill Resettlement Camp. I'm doing this for you, Delilah. For the country, yes, that too. And for me, of course for me. But you more than anyone. You're the reason I came here. This is where it started. This is where it ends. In the Shadow Gallery, V's been setting up dominoes. He says that he's almost done. V's mission has been fulfilled. Everything's set up. Now all the pieces just need to fall in place. Letters have been sent to all citizens, all excerpts of poems. When deciphered, the letters reveal that V has been in control of the fake computer the whole time. Susan officially has nothing. November 7th, 1998. Finch knows that he's not going to go up against a normal man. He knows in order to understand V, he has to get inside his head. The tablets Dominic gave him was LSD. Finch takes them and starts his trip. He finds limbless corpses tied to the fence, or that's what they look like at first. It was just the LSD taking effect. I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have taken the LSD, not here. But I wanted to know what it's like being him in this place. If I can just get outside the walls until I feel better, no problem. The main gate's back this way. The gate moves infinitely farther away. Finch hallucinates himself in a prison outfit. The camp is filled with prisoners. Oh, look, they're all smiling. They're all happy. God, it's been so long. I've forgotten how rich the color of your skin was. 1,000 special blends of coffee. In Finch's vision, every prisoner is happy and smiling. They all start walking through the wall while smiling and waving at him. Finch can't go through the wall. He sees a woman in a window and crosses the field. It's Dr. Surridge. She's cooking breakfast for Finch, almost as if they were living together. And then Lilyman and Prothero show up in the dream. Lilyman discovers that Finch stopped believing in God, so he's taken away and brought to room 5, V's room. The answer's there, written on the floor for me to read, but I don't understand it. And yes, it's just the drugs, but he was drugged too, locked away to die, and he reached some understanding. Finch is trying to recreate V's rebirth at Larkhill. He's trying to go through his metamorphosis. He's trying to morph his mind into V's. The wall in cell 5 blows up and Finch makes his escape. He strips off his clothes and starts crawling on his hands and knees. Was this how he felt? This verve, this vitality, this vision. Finch crawls on his hands and knees, and he finds himself at Stonehenge. Why Stonehenge, of all places? Well, it was once believed that Stonehenge was used by druids to practice religious magic and forms of rituals. This could symbolize that Finch has gone through a metamorphosis, a rebirth, just like V in Larkhill or Evey on the roof. November 7th, 1998, the Shadow Gallery. Evie's getting frustrated with V's riddles. He shows her yet another connecting hallway that leads to V's eyes. Along with taping into the fake computer, he can also see into all the cameras. He shows Evie the final step of his plan, the train. V has planted explosives on the abandoned train. Evie asks V where the train is going. He once again gives her nothing but riddles. Helen talks about all the changes she's going to make when she's in charge. She still abuses Conrad. She's one of the most compelling characters in this whole graphic novel. Alistair and Creedy have a meeting to discuss them working together. It seems Alistair's trying to play both sides of the war. We see Rosemary get ready for her next day. She takes her gun from under her pillow with her. Next, we see that Helen and Alistair are actually having an affair. Helen flashes the camera thinking the camera is no longer working. Unbeknownst to Helen, V is watching everything. Back of the head, we see Leader Susan is absolutely devastated. Despite knowing that V was in control of the fake computer, Susan still says he forgives her. Although he can barely function, he has to still go outside to face his people. Next, we see Finch has returned back to London. He's unshaved and disheveled. While walking, Finch discovers a subway sign that casts a shadow that looks strangely like V's symbol. Finch takes this as a sign and descends the old abandoned subway. He walks around for a while until he finally discovers the train. Susan goes out to meet with the citizens to save face. Should I wave back? It mustn't look rehearsed or sincere, but instead a gesture from the heart, as spontaneous as their own. They love me. I pass on. England prevails. Finch starts walking through the train station. He hears an old song playing on a radio. It was set up by V. So, Mr. Finch, finally we meet. Rosemary is in the crowd outside of Susan's motorcade. He lowers the window to shake hands with her. Rosemary takes her chance and kills Susan. It's amazing how one bullet can completely change the course of history. This once all-powerful man was killed by a down-and-out citizen. Meanwhile, down the subway, Finch finally comes face-to-face with V. V throws a few of his knives at Finch, but not before Finch is able to get a few shots off. V's knife strikes Finch in the shoulder. V did not intend to kill Finch, only wound him. There. Do you think you can kill me? There's no flesh or blood without the cloak to kill. There's only an idea. Ideas are bulletproof. Farewell. V walks away and Finch takes the knife out of his shoulder. Turns out, Finch did hurt V. He made him bleed. Blood. Flesh. in blood after all. I killed you, you monster. I killed you. V might be an idea, but the man behind the mask is very much flesh and blood. In the streets, it's announced that the terrorist known as V has been mortally wounded. If he does not appear before midnight, he will be assumed dead, which isn't far from the truth. V walks into the room and collapses. Evey runs to him. V tells Evey that he'll be dead soon. There's nothing that can stop that. This country is not saved. Do not think that. But all its old beliefs have come to rubble, and from rubble may we build. By turn of the century, they'll know their fate. Either a rose miss rubble blooms, or else has bloomed too late. Also, the Victorian line is blocked, twixt Whitehall and St. James. Give me a Viking funeral. Evey's in an eerily similar spot now that she was when Gordon died. She starts following V's blood trail. She starts thinking about all the little clues he's ever told her. She walks into the camera room where she hears the government's announcement. Evey feels overwhelmed by all of it. How will she continue V's revolution? Oh Christ, what happens next? You never said what you were educating me for. You never told me what I'm supposed to do. I walk towards the body, and then I take off his mask. No, this isn't what I do. What I do is, in tears, I stumble over the corpse. I tear the mask aside. No, that's not it. Because you were so big, V. And what if you're just no one? Just do it. There's no reason why I shouldn't. No one here has stopped me. No, I'm past that one. You weren't my dad. I know that. Even if you were, it wouldn't be enough. I kneel. My hands are trembling. I can hardly find the fastenings. But finally, I lift the mask away, that maddening smile, and Evey finally understands. She finally gets it. She gets what V has been saying this whole time. It doesn't matter who's under the mask. It doesn't matter who he was before or even after Larkhill. It doesn't matter their race, creed, or gender. V is not a person. He's an idea, a movement, a revolution. V can't die because he isn't flesh or blood. He's a thought. He can be anyone. Anyone. This is what V was setting Evey up for the whole time. He knew he was going to die eventually. He knew Evey would take his spot, and this is what she's going to do. November 9th, 1998, 9:30 p.m. The country is in full chaos. There are nationwide protests and riots. Stores and homes are getting broken into and looted. There are fires everywhere. Finch and Dominic watch the chaos from afar. Finch tells Dominic about the importance of symbols, something Susan forgot. For the people riding below them, V was a symbol, one they needed. We learn that Finch lost his whole family while he was in the war. After Larkhill, Finch sees the truth as well. There's nothing here for him anymore. Finch gives Dominic his best regards and walks out in the middle of the chaos. Alistair is planning to meet with Helen again. When he gets into the room, however, he sees the video of him and Helen's affair. The video is a distraction. Conrad beats Alistair half to death with a wrench. A few minutes later, Helen arrives home. She walks in and sees Conrad dying on the ground. Alistair was able to cut Conrad's throat with a razor before he died. In one last effort, Conrad reaches out to Helen to ask her for help. She rejects him and berates him. Helen plugs in the bedroom camera and points it at Conrad. She makes him watch himself die. She is truly heartless. Outside, a crowd is starting to gather. Everyone wants to know if V will reveal himself before midnight or if he's truly dead. Right when everyone starts to lose hope, V makes his grand entrance. Good evening, London. I'd like to introduce myself, but truth to tell, I don't have a name. You can call me V. Since mankind's dawn, a handful of oppressors have accepted the responsibility over our lives that we should have accepted ourselves. By doing so, they took our power. By doing nothing, we give it away. In anarchy, there is another way. With anarchy, from rubble comes a new life, hope reinstated. Reports of my death were exaggerated. Tomorrow, Downing Street will be destroyed, the head reduced to ruins, and end what has gone before. Tonight, you must choose what comes next. Live our own lives, or return to chains. Choose carefully. V makes her exit. This causes the crowd to go wild. The citizens revolt against the military. The police start shooting. Dominic, who was among the crowd, runs to an alley with his head bleeding. Evey swoops in and saves him from the rioters below. November 10th, 1998, 2 a.m. Evey gives V the Viking funeral he requested. Give me a Viking funeral, you said. It's yours, my love. It's yours. Evey places V into a glass coffin aboard the abandoned train. V said there would be a blocked line between Whitehall and St. James. This is where the head is located. V said he wanted a Viking funeral. The train is filled with explosives. V, or rather Evey, is going to destroy the head to put the final nail in the coffin of the Norsefire party. With everything set, Evey lets the train go. Back on the roof, we see the train has reached its destination. Dominic wakes up to see the skies turn red. Welcome, young man. I trust you are recovered quite from your ordeal. As for your question, we are in the Shadow Gallery. This is my home. Evey saved Dominic from the rioters below, because she's going to take him under her wing. Dominic will be to Evey what Evey was to V, the next in line. Remember, it doesn't matter who's behind the mask. because V is an idea, not a man. Next we see Finch walking down an empty road. The bombs can be seen going off in the background. Helen runs into Finch's arms, pleading with him for protection. I've always known you weren't like Conrad or Almond or the others. You're like me. You're a survivor, Eddie. We need each other. Together we can salvage something. This mob aren't much, but given time, we can build a small army. We could restore order. What do you say? Not taking any chances, Finch pushes Helen into the crowd of angry rioters. Finch continues walking out of the city. There's nothing left for him in London. He's not the same man he was at the beginning of this comic. Once he learned about Larkhill, he was no longer interested in serving his country. His vendetta was against V himself. He had to prove to himself that he was the better man. Now that V's dead, Finch needs to find a new purpose in life. He'll never get his old life back, when he was happy and young. But it might not be too late for him to find some kind of peace elsewhere, far away from the broken streets of London. This comic ends rather ambiguously, as we do not know what happens after. Does the revolution continue? Does what remains of the old Norsefire party come back into power? How many will die and suffer from V's revolution? Will Dominic really become Evie's protege, as she was V's? We don't know, because this is where our story ends. V for Vendetta is utterly fascinating. Its impact and influence isn't like any other comic I've ever read. Its tale stands the test of time. In fact, it's even more relevant today than it was when it first released all those years ago. In today's world of political and social turmoil, stories like V for Vendetta, Fahrenheit 451, and 1984 become tools of guidance. It's important to analyze these works and to keep talking about them. They are cautionary tales, ones we cannot afford to ignore. This comic is a masterpiece. It's a brilliant insight into the human condition and government. This comic could be dark, it could be heartbreaking, and just downright sad at times. But it's also very hopeful. Moore is telling us that it's never too late to stand our own ground and fight back. Some consider this to be Moore's magnum opus. I may very well just agree with them. Having never read this comic before making this video, I was rather shocked when my viewers voted for this over some of the other choices I gave them. But now I see why. This comic is not nearly talked about enough, especially when compared to Moore's other works. I really hope this video can change that.